What if the key to success isn't just about what you say, but when you choose to say nothing at all? In a world where everyone is desperate to be heard, silence has become a rare yet powerful tool. Imagine a life where your words aren't just noise, but are crafted with purpose, precision, and impact. There are moments in life when you wish you had stayed silent, one careless remark, a reaction before thinking, and suddenly the damage is done. It's not just awkwardness anymore. Sometimes it costs you trust relationships and even valuable opportunities. In a world that's racing to be heard, where everyone's clamoring for attention, the ability to choose silence becomes a rare and profound power. But how do you master this power? How do you know when to speak and when to remain silent? It takes more than sheer willpower. It takes self-mastery, a quality that has been honed for thousands of years through Stoic philosophy. Stoicism isn't an escape for the weak. It's a compass guiding those who want to live grounded amidst chaos with unwavering discipline, strength, and purpose. At the heart of Stoicism is emotional control, understanding what you can control, letting go of what you can't, and perhaps most importantly, knowing when to speak and when to be silent. We've all had those moments when our words betrayed us. Maybe it was a rash comment, or maybe we spoke out of turn only to realize later the damage we'd done. If you've ever felt the sting of regret for what you said, this video is for you. Stay with me till the end and you'll learn 7 tools that will turn your words into an asset, not a burden. Number 1. Listen more, speak less. Think about the last time you were in a conversation and the other person couldn't wait to interrupt finishing your sentences or stealing the spotlight. It happens every day. People rush to speak, but few are willing to listen. Social media is a perfect example. Millions shouting, "Listen to me." Yet how often do you find someone actually listening, truly hearing you? In Stoicism, listening isn't passive. It's a deliberate act of strength. It's the ability to resist the impulse to perform, to hold back, and wait for the right moment to speak. A skilled swordsman doesn't swing wildly. They wait, watch, and move only when it matters. The wise understand the value of silence. They don't use words to fill the empty space. They use silence to better understand others. I want to share a story with you because it perfectly illustrates the power of silence. Dave, a rideshare driver in Manhattan, is a man of few words. One day, a woman got into his car, exhausted, her eyes red from crying. For the entire 40-minute ride, Dave didn't say a single word except a polite, "Good morning." He placed a water bottle in the front cup holder, turned off the radio, and every so often glanced at her through the rear-view mirror just to make sure she was okay. When they arrived at her destination, the woman stepped out and left a note behind. "I just lost my father. Thank you for letting me sit in silence. This ride was the kindest thing I've experienced all week." Dave didn't say a word, yet he communicated something far more profound. "I'm here. I understand." His silence spoke volumes. Active listening, a choice, not a default. Listening isn't just about sitting quietly while someone talks. It's an active choice. It's about being present, asking thoughtful follow-up questions, being patient enough to let silence sit, and not rushing to fill the space with empty chatter. Great listeners don't interrupt with unsolicited advice, and they certainly don't pretend to understand when they don't. They ask, they listen, and they give people the time to share at their own pace. In meetings, the quietest person is often the one with the clearest grasp of the situation. In relationships, the best friend isn't the one with all the answers. It's the one who simply listens when you need to vent. A great doctor doesn't just prescribe medication. They listen to the fear behind the symptoms. And a great salesperson doesn't just pitch products. They listen to the needs and desires of their clients. Choosing silence over the urge to fill every moment with words is one of the most powerful tools in mastering not just your emotions, but your relationships, your career, and your personal growth. Silence, when wielded wisely, can be your most potent asset. So the next time you're faced with a choice, whether to speak or to stay quiet, remember sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. Have you ever felt the weight of your words long after you've spoken them? The kind of weight that lingers, leaving you wishing you could turn back time? What if you could learn to control the storm within before it affects everything around you? Let's dive deeper into how mastering silence isn't just about holding your tongue, but also mastering your emotions and mindset. As we continue to explore the art of speaking less, let's take a step further. Have you ever wondered who can sit beside you in complete silence and make you feel less alone? True connection isn't about filling every silence with words. It's about the comfort of being present without the need to speak. Here's a simple exercise to help you train your listening skills. For the next week, pay attention during every conversation. Count how many questions you ask versus how many opinions you offer. Are you asking twice as often as you're speaking? If so, you're on the right path. Try letting the other person speak 70% of the time. The more you listen, the more you'll realize that people don't need to be fixed. They need to feel understood. And here's something you might not expect. The better you get at listening, the less you'll need to talk. Once you understand that there's no need to guess or insert your opinion into every pause, you'll stop fighting over the small parts. Instead, you'll focus on the bigger picture. The most influential people are the ones who rarely say much. When they do, their words have weight. Surprisingly, during these moments of active listening, you might find that you understand yourself better too. You'll notice your impatience, the urge to interrupt, and that mental script waiting for your turn to speak. Let me tell you my story. Becoming aware of these urges, that's a sign of real growth. You no longer need to win the conversation. You just want to connect. The power of self-control and emotional mastery. As Epictetus once wisely reminded us, nature gave us one tongue and two ears so we could hear twice as much as we speak. Nature doesn't make mistakes. That ratio, 2 ears to 1 mouth, is a lesson in itself. The question is, are you living in reverse? Because when you begin to tame your words through listening, you'll quickly realize that the real challenge isn't your mouth, it's your mind. Often, what causes us to say the wrong thing isn't ignorance, but emotion rising too quickly. So how do you control that storm within? What if emotion is the silent manipulator behind every conversation you've ever had? Number 2, control your emotions. There's a truth that many of us only realize after cracks have appeared in our relationships. Words are never entirely harmless. They're like arrows. Once released, you can't take them back. The saddest part is that most of these arrows are fired not by reason, but by emotion. We get angry, hurt, or scared, and in that moment, we speak. But those words can have consequences that last far longer than the emotion that sparked them. Just a few seconds of lost control can ruin something beautiful you've spent years building. That's why learning to manage your emotions before you speak isn't a luxury. It's a survival skill. Stoicism doesn't ask you to stay silent forever. It simply asks you to stay conscious before you speak. True freedom, according to Stoicism, isn't the ability to say whatever you want. It's the strength to hold back when you should, and that only happens when you're in control of your emotions. The dangers of emotion-led words. Have you ever been so angry that you wanted to shout or insult someone only to regret every word minutes later? Or maybe you let a secret slip just to prove a point only to lose someone's trust forever. These moments aren't rare. They happen every day, whether at home, at work, or even in anonymous comments on social media. Let me share a story with you and listen closely, because it shows how easily emotion can take over your words and your life. John, a man from Chicago, was a long-time manager at a tech company. His co-workers admired his calm nature. But one day, in a tense meeting, his boss harshly criticized him in front of everyone. John snapped. He interrupted, raised his voice, and accused his boss of being unfair. He said the team didn't respect him. The room fell silent. That same afternoon, John was removed from his managerial role. The irony, John wasn't wrong in how he felt, but he lost because of how he reacted. If he had just taken a few seconds to breathe, everything might have turned out differently. A deep breath can be the wall between a wise response and a reckless reaction. And that's the shift Stoicism wants us to practice every day. Don't speak when you're angry. Don't explain when you're hurt. Don't respond when your mind is still in a storm. Modern neuroscience backs up this ancient wisdom. Emotions are powerful, but they don't have to control you. Have you ever felt like your emotions completely hijacked your words, and before you knew it, you said something you wish you could take back? What if you could learn how to transform those emotional outbursts into a source of power instead of regret? Let's dive into how mastering your emotions can give you control over your words, your actions, and ultimately your life. We've all been there. When emotions run high, it feels like you lose control and suddenly your brain is no longer in charge. What the Stoics understood thousands of years ago is this: when emotions take over, the amygdala in your brain steps in and takes charge, overpowering the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for reasoning. In simpler terms, when you're angry, you're literally less intelligent. Your brain is hijacked, and everything you say in that moment isn't coming from your true self, it's coming from your emotions. So, here's a question. Are you okay with being the spokesperson for your anger? The strange thing is, emotional control doesn't mean suppression. It's not about bottling things up. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's about transformation. It's about turning those raw, uncontrollable feelings into something that works for you, not against you. Techniques for emotional transformation. One of the most effective techniques to regain control is simple but powerful. Label your emotions with precision. Don't just say, "I'm mad." Instead, tell yourself, "I feel disrespected," or "I feel powerless." By naming your emotion, you activate your rational brain, giving you the space you need to detach from the emotional wave. You'll create just enough distance between yourself and the feeling, which gives you more clarity on how to respond. Another technique comes from behavioral psychology. If you feel like you're about to explode, sit down and write out everything you want to say. But here's the catch: don't send it. Write it by hand. The physical act of writing forces your brain to shift from emotional reaction to structured language. What often happens is that within minutes, you'll no longer even want to say those things. The anger dissipates, and you're left with a clearer mind. Abraham Lincoln used to do this whenever he felt angry at someone. He would write a scathing letter, then put it in a drawer and never send it. They called it a letter of venting. It wasn't meant for anyone else to read, it was for him to regain clarity. This simple act helped him stay remarkably composed even during the tensest political storms. The power of a simple anchor. You can also choose an anchor, a small action that helps reset your mind. It could be something as simple as touching your wrist or exhaling slowly through your mouth. These tiny actions have a big impact. They're your brain's way of saying, pause, take control. These aren't random tricks. They're tools that protect your dignity and your peace, allowing you to respond, not react. Learning to control your words isn't about silencing yourself forever. It's about knowing when to speak, what to say, and how to say it. Sometimes the greatest power lies not in what we choose to say, but in what we choose not to say. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where, because you lost control of your emotions, you said something you deeply regret? If so, share it in the comments. Not to feel ashamed, but so we can all learn together to live stronger, calmer, and speak with more purpose. The value of saying less. Sometimes the most dangerous habit is saying whatever comes to mind. We call it being honest, keeping it real, or not bottling things up. But the truth is, blurting out every thought that crosses your mind isn't honesty. It's a lack of discipline. People with depth aren't those who think less. They're those who know how to think enough and say just enough. Think back to your last coffee catch-up with friends. Someone mentioned they were thinking about changing jobs. Before they even finished, someone jumped in with, "To be honest, switching jobs now is a dumb move." A few more just being real comments followed, and what started as a conversation turned into criticism. The vibe shifted, the person went quiet, and maybe, just maybe, they'll never open up to that group again. A valid point, said at the wrong time, in the wrong way, or to the wrong person, can completely derail the conversation. It might as well be completely wrong. The Stoics don't stay silent because they have nothing to say. They stay silent because they understand something simple. Every word has a cost. It could be your energy, your privacy, or your relationships. As you grow, you'll find that the less you speak, the more you understand that silence isn't emptiness. It's power. The more you learn, the more you realize that you don't need to fill every silence with words. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish." The Stoic approach teaches us that sometimes staying quiet is the wisest choice. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt the urge to speak up, only to regret it later? What if the real power lies in knowing when to stay silent, even when you're right? Let me take you through a story that will show you just how important silence can be and why sometimes keeping quiet might just be the smartest thing you can do. As we continue to explore the art of silence, let's think about this. True wisdom isn't about speaking up to prove you're right. It's about having the strength to stay quiet, to let yourself be misunderstood, and still remain calm in your own skin. Let me tell you a story that might just change the way you approach speaking and silence. It's worth a minute of your time because somewhere in it, there's a lesson we all need to learn at some point in life. Thomas was sharp, quick-thinking, intelligent, and working in finance. His mind was a whip full of logic and insight. One day, during an internal meeting, his boss presented a new idea that wasn't fully thought out. Thomas, irritated and ready to correct, immediately jumped in to point out every flaw. His words were sharp as knives. He wasn't wrong, but he was too fast, too blunt. His boss didn't react in the moment, but a few weeks later, Thomas found himself quietly removed from a major project. He was confused. What went wrong? The truth was, leadership felt he wasn't a cultural fit. Thomas didn't lose the project because of a lack of ability. He lost because he was right, but at the wrong time. From that moment on, Thomas changed. He began to write down his thoughts before meetings, rereading them 10 minutes later, asking himself, am I saying this to contribute, or am I just trying to prove that I'm smart? If the answer was the latter, he kept quiet. Over time, something shifted. People began to pay real attention when he did speak. His silence became a signal of depth, not hesitation. The power of thinking before speaking. You can begin the same way. It's simple. When a thought pops into your head, don't say it right away. Instead, imagine that every word you speak costs money. You'd speak less, but each word would mean more. Give yourself a buffer, a brief 3 seconds between thought and speech. In those 3 seconds, ask yourself, is this moment, this thing, this person really worth it? This small question can completely change the outcome of any conversation. Have you ever felt like you were pressuring yourself by saying too much? Every time you share a plan, an idea, or even an emotion, you're putting yourself in a position to defend or prove it. But what if you kept just a little for yourself? By keeping a part of it, even if just a small part, you give yourself the freedom to pivot, adjust, or even walk away without shame. Not every thought needs to be shared, and not everyone needs to know what you're thinking. You don't have to speak to prove you exist. Silence as a shield. The right silence is like invisible armor. It shields you from misunderstandings, emotional chaos, and battles that aren't worth fighting. Ask yourself, are you speaking to be heard, or are you just afraid of being forgotten? When you choose your words, choose your moments, and choose your audience carefully, it's no longer just communication, it's survival. Before you rush to share your next big idea, remember this. Ideas are like seeds. If you speak them too soon, the wind might carry them away before they ever get a chance to grow. Silence can protect your ideas, giving them the space to develop into something stronger, more impactful. Why is silence such a powerful tool in protecting what matters most to you? Why are Stoics so careful about sharing their personal plans? The answer might just change the way you place your trust and your words into the world. Guard your plans. There's something strange about modern life. The more people talk about their goals, the less they seem to achieve them. They post their plans on social media, telling everyone, I'm launching this project. I'm learning that skill. This is the year everything changes. Then a few months later, all of it fades away, just like an old post no one remembers. Why does this happen? Because talk, when unchecked, becomes the most powerful sedative for action. When you speak too soon about your plans, you may feel a temporary sense of accomplishment, but it can sap your drive to actually do the work. It's as if the act of speaking about it satisfies the need for action without requiring you to follow through. Ever felt like you were making progress simply by talking about your goals, only to realize months later that nothing has changed? What if the real progress lies in doing the work, not just talking about it? Let's dive into how the illusion of progress can hold us back, and why silence is sometimes the most powerful tool in achieving success. As we continue exploring the power of silence, let's talk about a subtle trap that many fall into: the illusion of progress. It tricks you into thinking you're moving forward when in reality you're just talking about it. Picture this. One morning at a cafe, you overhear someone passionately sharing their startup idea. "I'm going to open this unique coffee shop. It'll have artsy vibes books and a community-driven brand." They say, "Sounds inspiring, right?" But 6 months later, you return to the same cafe, and what do you see? No new coffee shop. The person is still sitting at the same table, sipping the same drink, telling a story that sounds exactly like the last one. It's not that this person is lazy or insincere. They've simply fallen into a trap, a mental trap, where talking about progress feels just as rewarding as actually making progress. Our brains struggle to distinguish between talking about doing something and actually doing it. When you share your plans, you get immediate rewards: admiration, encouragement, and approval. It feels like you've already made it halfway. But the truth is, you haven't even started. Marcus Aurelius never bragged about living simply. He just lived simply. He didn't preach discipline. He embodied it. That's what made him different. Think about it. If you were a tree, would you rather use your energy to grow real leaves or just shake your branches so people think you're growing? The choice is yours. The illusion of talking about success. Let me tell you a story you won't forget, not because it's about some hero or legend, but because it's about someone just like you. Jake, 34, was a software developer who hated his corporate job. He always talked about quitting to build his own app. He had plenty of ideas and gave killer presentations. He sketched out detailed plans, told his friends, and even built a timeline for development. Everyone was impressed. But month after month, not a single line of code was written. Then one day, a friend said bluntly, "Jake, you're addicted to talking about success, not building it." That hit hard. The next day, Jake deleted all his old posts, stopped sharing, and sat down to write his first line of code. 3 months of silence, 6 months of no updates. Then one day, his app went live on the App Store. No announcement, no noise, just results. Jake's story forces us to ask, are we doing the work or just talking about it? And if you see yourself in this story, that's not failure, that's awakening. It's the realization that keeping your plans quiet is how you protect the energy to actually make them real. Silence as a shield for progress. Take a look at Thomas Sankara, the revolutionary from Burkina Faso. He never made speeches about living simply. Instead, he sold the government's luxury cars, cut his own salary in half, and grew vegetables in the presidential garden. When you stop performing for show, people start noticing. When you stop announcing your results, your actions speak for themselves. Silence isn't just golden, it's a form of power. To really live this out, try something for the next 30 days. Stop sharing your plans. No posts, no humble brags. Every time you feel the urge to talk about what you're going to do, pause and write down one concrete action instead. Not because you don't deserve recognition, but because you deserve a real result, not just a round of applause. The path to real results. Pause here for a moment. If you're still reading, it means you're not just interested in philosophy, you're ready to live it. The path to mastering your words is a bold one. It takes persistence and awareness, but the next chapters will give you real strategies, practical, not preachy, to turn Stoicism into a way of life. Walk the whole path And if you found something valuable here, a quiet like, "From you is enough." That quiet support can ripple far, just like the Stoic spirit itself, deep, silent, and full of strength. Guard in your circle. Number 5. Choose your confidants wisely. There's a kind of spiritual suicide that many commit daily without even realizing it, talking too much and to the wrong people. You might think you're connecting, but in reality you're digging a hole in your own foundation. Your words, when shared too freely, lose their value, and your energy dissipates. Choose who you share your deepest thoughts with, because not everyone deserves a piece of your mind. Protect your plans, protect your energy, and protect your silence. Have you ever shared something deeply personal only to later feel exposed or betrayed? What if the key to protecting your peace and your plans lies in choosing the right people to trust? Let's explore why silence can be your greatest ally and how to filter who gets access to your most valuable thoughts. We've discussed the power of silence, but now let's dig deeper into why it's so important to be selective about who you share your words with. Every time you confide in someone, you're handing over a piece of yourself. Think of it like digging a hole. Every personal disclosure is another shovel of dirt, and eventually, someone who isn't, you might use what you've said to bury you. Sounds heavy, right? Let me ask you this. Of all the people you've confided in, how many truly kept quiet out of respect for you? Not just because they hadn't had the chance to use your words against you. Stoicism teaches us to control our words, but few understand that this doesn't just mean speaking less. It means choosing the right people to speak to. You don't have to shut yourself off from everyone, but you do have to be selective. The longer you live, the clearer it becomes. Not everyone deserves access to your internal systems, your thoughts, your most personal files. The dangers of sharing. Too much. Have you ever sat on a bus, met a stranger, and suddenly found yourself sharing personal issues, family struggles, relationship, stress, work problems? There's something about the anonymity of a stranger that makes us feel like they won't judge. But exactly because they're not involved, they have no loyalty to what you've said. In a society that runs on information, navet is one of the easiest things to exploit. I once knew a guy named Mark, a personal trainer just starting out. He confided in someone he thought was a close friend, marketing ideas, financial troubles, unpaid debts. The guy listened, nodded, encouraged. Later, he opened a gym right next door, targeting Mark's exact clientele. Offhand remarks like, "I'm not sure I can keep this going another month," spooked potential investors, not because Mark was weak, but because he revealed his weak spots too soon to the wrong person. This doesn't just happen to Mark. It happens at work when you vent to a co-worker and notice your boss acting differently. It happens in families when a confession becomes a tool for manipulation. It even happens online where people pour out their hearts on keyboards, saying it helps. But feeling lighter isn't always the same as being smart. And being too open always carries a cost. Filtering what you share. So what can we do? The answer isn't to go completely silent, but to train ourselves to filter. Before you speak, ask yourself, will sharing this make me stronger, or will it hand someone else power over me? If you're not sure, keep it in. Every word you speak is stored somewhere in someone's memory, in conversations you won't be part of, or worse, in a plan that's working against you. Here's a simple but powerful rule to live by, the 3-time appearance principle. Someone should show up in your life at least 3 times, in joy, in pain, and in silence, before you share anything truly personal. Everyone can be kind when things are good, but the people who stay quiet when there's nothing left to gain, that's who you trust. Want a real-world example? Look at how CEOs guard new product secrets. It's not that they don't trust their teams, it's that they know leaks happen, and the worst leaks come from mouths with no long-term loyalty. Your life, your plans, your thoughts, they're all a work in progress. Don't let someone evaluate the prototype and decide your worth. Silence as protection. Your silence can be your last line of defense against a hidden attack. A true confidant won't need you to say much. They'll see you clearly even through your silence. The Bible says, "Do not cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and tear you in pieces." It's not that you don't have something valuable to share, it's that not everyone is capable of honoring what you give. So ask yourself, who are you sharing your truth with? And are you sure they'll protect it? Or are they just waiting for a chance to use it against you? One day you'll realize that the person who knows the most about you might not understand you at all, and the one who truly understands you might not need to know every detail. That's when you'll understand that silence isn't the absence of words, it's the presence of wisdom. But how much silence is enough? Where's the line between quiet wisdom and distant coldness? The answer might surprise you. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt the urge to react, but chose silence instead? What if I told you that silence isn't just about keeping quiet? It's a powerful choice, one that requires immense courage and can shape your life in ways words never could. As we've explored before, silence isn't just the absence of words. It's a conscious decision, a powerful tool that comes with a price. Choosing silence, especially when you have every reason to speak up, requires 10 times more courage than winning any argument. In a world where everyone has a microphone, social media, podcasts, live streams, who dares to stay quiet? But what if, in that silence, you aren't simply avoiding the noise around you? What if instead you're owning your place in the world? Think about a time when someone said something wrong about you right in front of a crowd. Your gut twists, blood rushes to your head, and your mouth wants to fire back. But if you've ever held it in, just looked, stayed silent, nodded and walked away, you know that it doesn't feel good. Yet it hits differently. That moment says to the world, I don't need to prove anything. In that pause, you aren't just controlling your words, you're controlling yourself. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, didn't speak much. His meditations were written for himself, and in one rarely quoted line he wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Don't mimic. Don't retaliate. Don't fall into the trap of reaction. You don't need to speak to strike back. You just need to avoid becoming the reflection of what you despise." That's it. The power of silence. Ever notice how some people say the smartest things, yet nothing seems to stick? Meanwhile, others remain quiet, do their work, say nothing, and we remember them forever. Why? Because words are sound waves and sound fades, but actions are gravity. They don't need to be seen, they pull anyway. There's a side of silence most people avoid, the fear of being misunderstood. We're afraid that if we stay quiet, people will think we're weak, clueless, or wrong. But here's the twist. Silence creates a strange kind of power. It forces others to guess, and in that uncertainty, you gain influence. Sure, it sounds good, but how do you actually live this in a world that constantly pushes your buttons? Living silence in the real world. The answer lies in the small moments, the times when silence can be your greatest tool. When the person you love is upset, instead of dragging up every past mistake, can you just take their hand, stay silent, and listen? When a coworker subtly throws shade in a meeting, can you smile, look at your boss, and simply deliver your point? No more, no less. Let me share a story about David. He works in design, a field where creativity isn't always rewarded fairly. One day, a co-worker stole one of David's ideas and pitched it to their boss as his own. The team clapped and David stayed silent. No pushback, no call-out. A week later, when it was time to execute the idea, the team turned to David for the details. Why? Because the core of the idea lived in his mind, not theirs. He owned the moment. No words, just actions. From that day, people saw David differently, not just as talented, but as grounded. Silence, when used right, flips the script. People don't listen to you because you're speaking. They listen because they know when you speak, it matters. Silence as medicine. Sometimes silence is the medicine you need. When we stop voicing every negative feeling and just sit with them, those feelings start to shrink. It's the same in Zen Taoism and Buddhism. Wu Wei non-action is a deeply intentional act. You don't react, not because you're avoiding, but because you're processing at a deeper level. So here's the question: when you feel overwhelmed, when life pushes your buttons, can you pause, sit in silence, and let your actions speak louder than any words ever could? Have you ever thought that staying silent could be the most powerful thing you can do in a world that's constantly demanding your words? What if instead of proving your worth with every conversation, you let your actions do the talking? Let's take a moment to challenge ourselves. Try a day of silence. No arguing. No proving, no vague social media posts aimed at someone. Just observe. Track every time you wanted to speak but didn't. At the end of the day, ask yourself, if I had said something, would it have really made things better? Maybe you're not the most eloquent speaker. That's okay. You can still make your words matter by saying less. Speak only when it counts. Don't let your voice become cheap because you gave it away too often. Silence is power, but only if you're strong enough to hold it. If you've ever held back from saying something and realized it made you stronger, drop a strength in silence to mark the moment you stopped reacting like you used to. Let your achievements speak. Most of us share a deeply human instinct, the desire to be recognized. Often the quickest way to satisfy that urge is to talk about what we plan to do, what we're working on, or what we hope to achieve. We think that by speaking up, others will see us as serious as someone of value. But the truth is, the more we talk about something before it actually happens, the more likely we are to lose it. Not because someone sabotages us, but because speaking too early and too much erodes our drive to act. The more we assert ourselves with words, the easier it is to fall into the illusion that we've made progress, when in reality, we haven't even started. Those who live by the Stoic mindset understand this well. Every word costs energy. Every time you share a plan, justify a decision, or try to prove your worth, you're giving away something that should have been reserved for action. They choose to act first, speak later. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they know that real credibility doesn't come from convincing others. It comes from letting results speak for themselves. The power of silence in action. In a world that never stops talking, the person who knows when to stay silent commands the most attention. Think back to the last time you told someone you were going to learn a new language, start working out, write a book, or launch a project. What happened after that? If you're like most people, the initial excitement probably faded soon after. By simply saying it out loud, you got a hit of that achievement feeling without doing the work. Your brain took the reward before paying the price, and then things stalled, not because you're weak, but because you unknowingly traded action for illusion. Purposeful silence isn't avoidance. It's a smart strategy. Think of it like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every day to check its growth. You let it grow in quiet, steadily and strongly. People are the same. The most meaningful things need protection from rushed judgment and impatient eyes. When you keep your plans to yourself, you create a safe space for them to grow free from outside pressure or distortion. Staying silent is also a way to train inner discipline. Not everyone can do it. It's easy to show you're trying much harder to move forward quietly without needing validation. But that's exactly what sets you apart. Silence demands that you truly believe in your own process, that you don't need to be seen, understood, or applauded. You just need to know exactly what you're doing and keep doing it. When the results come, you won't need to say a word. They'll speak for you. That's more than recognition, it's trust. Not because you promised, but because you delivered. No hype, no spotlight, just truth with weight. The kind that makes people pause, take notice, and see you differently because you weren't trying to be seen. You made it impossible not to be. The true value of silence. So the next time you're tempted to share a plan, pause. Ask yourself, what would happen if I kept this to myself? Am I ready to let the result be the only thing that speaks? If the answer is yes, you're on the right path. Because the one who controls their words is the one who's truly in control. And that's where all real value begins. We've just explored 7 Stoic-inspired lessons to master your words, from listening more, managing your emotions, to knowing when silence speaks louder than promises. Each one isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a practical tool to help you live with more clarity, resilience, and real impact through quiet strength. The more we grow, the less we need to talk. Our actions begin to speak for us. Words can build or destroy, but when you learn to control them, you're not just mastering speech, you're mastering yourself. That's the power Stoicism gives you: inner freedom, calm in the chaos, and an unshakable focus on the path you choose. If this video sparked something in you, something you hadn't considered before, give it a like. It might do the same for someone else. Drop a comment with your thoughts so we can grow together. Share it with a friend, a loved one, someone who could use a little more calm right now. And don't forget to subscribe, because your journey to self-mastery is just getting started, and what's coming next will keep you going strong. Thank you, and see you soon.